when I signed my first deal, that was the first thing that they said to me. They're like, well, what you're doing now seems to be working, so just keep doing that. They like see like the vision. They're like, yeah, be as Jewish as you, because they know they have so much experience of like people that are so different than the rest of the world, somehow resonating more than the person that just is. You don't need to change to succeed. You don't need to hide your yarmulkes and pretend you're not Jewish. People resonate the most with, as typical and as cliche as it may sound, with you being you.
Welcome to Ordinary People with Extraordinary Stories. I'm Chana Weisberg, host of this podcast. Joining me today, we have Moshe Reuven Sharadsky, also known as Moshe Reuven, who is an American artist, singer, songwriter, contributor to the 30 Under 30, an entrepreneur on Forbes, as well as just a very, very interesting person with a really interesting journey. Thank you so much for joining us, Moshe
Thank
Reuven.
you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the kind words. It's great to be
Thank you.
here.
Thank you. So, first of all, tell us a little about your story. You didn't start out as Moshe, you started out as Mark. Tell us a little about your childhood journey to fame.
So, yeah, I grew up a conservative Jewish household. Um, Basically, it was very conservative in South Florida. Like you go to a shul maybe for bar mitzvahs, for I don't know, blue moons, and did go to Hebrew school like once or twice a week when I was younger, until bar mitzvah age. But even then, I wasn't necessarily the kid that was super engaged in my Jewish learning. I love the stories. I love hearing different prayers, different parts about my Jewish faith, and I felt very proud to be Jewish. And I,
Mm.
grew up with a sense of Jewish pride, and always cherish stories like King David and Moses and Abraham and so on. Everything that we learned in, in a regular conservative Hebrew school growing up.
Mm.
And other than that, it wasn't necessarily involved in my life. Like I believed that there was a God. Yeah, I knew that my mom would teach me about it, that there's a God, there's a presence in between you and other people, and you have
Mm.
to, so there should be like a respect in between because you're not just communicating with others, you're communicating with God, like different ideas like that. I grew up hearing about and always believed. But other than that, it wasn't necessarily something that permeated my life in the practical sense. So
Interesting. So I look at you, and it seems like such a contradiction in terms. You grew up in a regular home where you weren't religious, and I look at you today with the long beard and the white, like you look like a rabbi. And then I've seen some of your publicity where they call you this Hasidic hipster that rhymes about God. Where you look like someone who'd be more in a house of Torah study than someone who's on stage singing for millions of people. So how does that contradiction
about
express itself?
yeah. For me, it's been quite the contradiction myself that I've struggled with for years, because before started going on the path of you know walking with God, I guess you'd say, or being Baal Tshuva, or however you want to call it. A
Mm.
So I was very entrenched in music. I was like, it was my passion. It was my hobby. That like every day after school, I'd be writing. My friends and I, when we would get together, we would have like, kind of like freestyle sessions as
Mm.
for, but it wasn't anything serious. It was just kind of like joking. But more and more, my friends and other people would appreciate it and be like, you have like you have a talent for this. Like you should use it. And I'm like, why? I'm thinking to myself, I use it every day because it's like my journal. The way I write is
Mhm.
basically journaling my life, and to my form of self-expression.
So your singing was more like how you expressed yourself, or how someone would write to their diary or journal at the end of the day, something like that?
Yeah, that's how my writing started, and
Mm.
I would say even earlier than that, it was more like just jokingly, just because like it's like we're all like nice Jewish boys from Cooper City, so it was
Mm.
like so unlikely. Like it was like when we would be rapping or stuff like that, it would be like kind of like with a comical vibe to it, like because we knew that that's not we're not gangster at all, and
Right.
but music changed in that genre too over the years, and it became more of a place of self-expression than just like about the typical stuff in the early 2000s and nine in the 90s. And so it was also like not so awkward because it was like, look, music artists in this genre today are being more expressive. They're openly, not talking about those topics and talking about life, so
Mhm.
it became more and more something that was socially acceptable anyways to be doing. So
Mhm. Wow. So what changed in your journey? Like, at what point did you become more interested in religion and God and Torah, mitzvot? Where did that happen?
um so I would say that in my mid-teens I felt that I was more and more entrenched in like the party aspect of being a teenager.
Like most teens,
Uh,
sure.
yeah, typical. Not like I mean, people would say I was kind of a like bigger partier, but
Mhm.
typical as America today. And I had some eye-opening experiences, and a lot of things were happening around me in a short period of time from friends that were around that. And I had kind of sensed that it feels a little rebellious. It feels a little bit against the grain of what we should be doing, always deep down. Uh, but also, that was just part of social life. So it just felt normal at the same time. And when I started seeing friends like passing away from different things,
Mhm.
or uh, we're
Well,
leaving
there
a,
was there was an
yes.
incident where you had something at a party that I
Yeah.
read about. Can
So
you
like
tell
I
us
had
about that?
something myself. Yeah. Basically, we had left school early that day. It was like in in Florida when there's hurricanes and
Mhm.
crazy weather sometimes. If there's a off day or whatever, it feels like today's not even planned. Like they don't even know what they're doing. So
Mhm.
they're just here because they're supposed to be in school and they don't. It's not. So like that was one of those days that it was just really off because we had just had a crazy storm and school just seemed like almost like not the same day. I don't even think everyone was there, and like even teachers. So we had left school early, and it wasn't a typical thing. My friend threw a big party, and like a lot of our grade just showed up to a school in the middle to a party in the middle of the day,
Hmm.
and it was really it was kind of a strange scene to begin with, and just I don't know exactly what happened, but it seemed as though that there was something in my drink when we were playing a social game, and it's slowly but surely like things started feeling like not the norm, and uh I found myself in a room just like feeling like I couldn't move and couldn't
Mm.
like breathe, and like I had some form of like a visual experience of what was going on, and it was kind of like this could be like your last day type of a visual experience, and I
Was it
was
like a near death experience?
that's what I experienced. I mean, but I'm not a
Okay.
doctor,
Right. Right.
So
So
uh,
so it was because someone spiked your drink? Is that way, like something in your drink that caused this
I
reaction?
believe that that's what it was because nothing I was doing was too drastic.
Mhm.
And I did have that experience like shortly after I had like drank something. I was like, "What's this? Is like some concoction. It wasn't necessarily what I thought I was drinking." And
Mhm.
I sometimes had friends that would make practical jokes, so it probably might have even been a
Mhm.
harmless
Mhm.
thing that I put me down a crazy thought, whatever that was, and just like it showed me like a visual of like what would happen if you left the world today, and your family reaction, and it being in the papers, like how your life
Mm.
was, and kind of your life was just you feeling this feeling that your life was just a big party,
Mm.
and you had all these dreams, and you're gonna make me cry talking about that.
Yeah.
You had all these dreams and all these things that you had hoped to do, and you weren't really capitalizing on them. You weren't really going after things fully. You were, more involved in
Sure.
the social life of things, and it made me feel like
That
this thrust of like I have to live a purposeful life. I can't leave
mm,
the world. I have to do
right.
things and part of a mission
That's
type thing.
that's a real sobering, moment that you really come to terms. I mean, anyone when we come to terms with something like that, whatever it is, a scare, a health scare, or anything, it could really wake us up. So,
It did, yeah.
yeah. How old were you at that time?
16.
16. Wow. So after that moment, I mean, I presume you got better, and I mean, you're here, so you're here to talk about it.
Yeah,
So
it was. I'll spare you the details, but I came back to the things. It felt like there was some ultimatum that I had to like choose something, and it was that I was like begging that could live a meaningful life and type thing, like that this wouldn't be the last moment.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
after that, things just like switched, and I started. I got up, and long story short, everything was okay. I was sick. I was, all it was not good for a good day or a few
Mhm.
days.
Mhm.
But after that, I came back to my senses, and I was really confused about what had happened, because it was just like, was that real type thing? Is that
Mhm.
really what I just experienced? And these feelings are feelings that I definitely feel deep down. And it wasn't until like I had seen all these other things happening with friends around me that it was just like in a short period of time, it was like it just felt like God was like speaking to me to like go a different direction. And even
Mhm.
not just me, but just multiple people in my vicinity, because it was just a series of weird events, in very short periods of time.
But the friends got sick or got not well or something like that?
Someone I knew passed away from
Mhm.
no, a few people got passed away from drinking and driving experiences.
Mhm.
uh
Mhm.
People I knew passing away from
Mhm.
drugs. Uh,
Right.
and I was leaving a party once, and my friend, I don't know why, but he was drinking and driving, and he flipped his car right in front of me,
Mm.
basically, at like
Wow.
60, 70 miles an hour, and they just walked out perfectly fine somehow.
Hmm.
Uh,
Wow.
and just a bunch of little things that were pretty big happening all at once, and it was just
Sure.
like I need to figure something else out. It didn't lead to religion necessarily. I just knew that God wanted me to be doing something different with my life.
So what changes did you make in your life, and what actually led you to religion and to Torah?
um I just tried to be around circles that wouldn't be partying as much, and they wouldn't uh be drinking as much. Just try to cut back on drinking, try to cut
Mhm.
back on just being around the party vicinity. I think for a year I just stopped going to parties entirely, um,
Mhm.
and
So
stuff like.
was it when you were in university that you actually started to attend Chabad and become interested more
Yeah,
in religion?
yeah. I mean, I was already doing things like within the realm of like it was. I kind of see it as like a spiritual journey I
Mhm.
was on until then. I'll look things up, and I'll definitely see what is the Jewish perspective on this, because I knew I was Jewish. So like for example, I did crazy stuff that I like. It didn't even make sense back then, but I was like, I want to be spiritually cleansed. Like I know like these I I know that like the non-Jewish way, they like do baptisms. I was like, what's a Jewish version of that? And I was like, I like made myself a mikvah in
Wow.
my mom's bathroom, like using the bathtub, and I like submerged myself like for it was like
Interesting.
weird. I was doing weird stuff that like if any one of my friends saw me, it would be like, what is going on? But, you know, I had no guidance. I was just like, I know there's a spiritual thing for this. I know there's a Jewish way to deal with this. I know like, and
Hmm.
I was praying every day. Like I'd started off like I'd do like bedside, kind of like in movies, like people praying bedside, and then I had this epiphany that like, wait, Jews don't do like this when they pray. We have to stand and like uh different things like that. And my freshman year in college, I tried keeping Shabbos. I was like, okay, first I'm not going to do schoolwork on Shabbos. And I don't
Hmm.
even know if I went to Chabad yet. I was just like, I know, I talk to God a lot about life, and there's probably things he wants from me. Like he's probably wants me to do certain things. So I started looking things up, and I was like, oh, well, it says something about Shabbat. So I'll do that. And
Hmm.
then I started doing like 25, day of rest. So, I laid in bed for 25 hours.
Oh, wow.
Like,
Where did you get your information from? Did you look online? Did you look on
so
Chabad.org?
a lot of it was Chabad.org, like I didn't even, I mean, I was just looking all over, but the best resource for
Right.
sure, Chabad.org. I saw a
Right.
video actually of the Rebbe once, and I don't know if I went to Chabad yet. Still, I was like doing research of like where I could go, and um, I think I just came along this video of the Rebbe, and the Rebbe's like talking about the Jewish soul, and he's like everything a Jew touches, he makes holy, and he brings a purpose to it, and just like small things like that led me to going to Chabad. And a friend actually asked me, they're like, I'm gonna go to a Friday night dinner at Chabad. Do you want to come? I was like, yeah, yeah, definitely. I was like probably more
Mm.
enthusiastic than most people that were just like coming to college and didn't know anything, where people were, or, whatever. But it was interesting. I have a really, I mean, like my journey has made it so that like this is forever with me, because I walked. It's like if you walked like a whole marathon, 7 times over, that, and you didn't know where you were going, like it stays with you. It's like it's embedded with me. So yeah, I mean, I feel like very grateful for it, even when I had so much confusion of like what I'm supposed to be doing because I had no guidance. It like led
Mhm.
me to having a really strong sense of purpose and faith, like strong in my Yiddishkeit. Like I would never, think I'd never leave this type of lifestyle or leave my, journey with God, because it's like, so I went through that basically.
Hmm. Wow, that's fascinating. Unlike most though, you decided to go really like all the way. I mean, you became a rabbi. You got your rabbinic ordination even in the Rabbinic
Oh,
College of America.
yeah. I mean,
What
yeah, I
what
like to do things all the way, I guess.
Okay. It wasn't just like, okay, I'm inspired by God, but you really, I guess you wanted to really learn and understand more about
Yeah.
it in a very serious way.
Yeah. I mean, I spent years learning, and and also at some point I just felt like I found myself always trying to educate others in different ways. And, um, I had a strong passion for the person that I was being other people, and I should have hashpa on them or influence in some way, like that I could show them things that I'm knowledgeable about now, and I wish I had known.
Mm,
And
mm,
yeah, just more and more just learning, and the amount of time that I'd spent learning it, just to get smicha, just seemed like a natural next step for me, and also something that I knew the Rebbe wanted Hasidim to have smicha. I knew that
which is
um,
rabbinic ordination, right?
rabbinic ordination, yeah, and
Yeah.
I knew that maybe it would have allow me to venture further into educating others in different capacities throughout my life. I didn't really know necessarily how, but I was writing for like teaching, like spreading Hasidus through writing. And
Mm,
I had like a Hasidus page that I made that was like, at the time, it was like, I, you know, for me, it was like, wow, this is like massive, I'm reaching all these people and they're enjoying concepts of Hasidus on social media through me. And I was just like, more and more, I just
mm.
wanted to find ways that I could have influence and, make the world a brighter place with. So I figured it'd be a good thing for me to learn.
Wow, beautiful. Is there something, some teaching in particular that you really enjoyed in Hasidic thought that you felt really spoke to you at the time or till
Which,
today?
at which time? So when I was deciding, when I was in yeshiva,
Hmm.
or when I was,
When you were venturing into this kind of life,
oh,
or when you were in yeshiva, when you were already in there.
so I always felt it was weird that my rabbi from UCF, Rabbi Chaim Baruch Lipsker, he would always, whenever I'd go to the Chabad house, whatever his Devar Torah was, it was always like, felt like he was like following me around, and he like knew exactly what I should hear that day. God bless him.
Wow.
He did a lot for me, and he I think one of my first times going that really stuck out to me, he was like, what the things that are fun or cool or like to go enjoy in life, like those are all temporary things,
Mm,
but the things that are what's true is going to be what's forever. And that was
mm,
like a thought that, like, I was like, wow, that's an interesting. I would
mhm,
put like quote when I was in college, again, weird things that I would do because I thought it was part of my journey or whatever. I'd take quotes that I liked and I'd put them on my wall. So
mhm,
one of them was that, because it was in different words, but that was just like, well, this is kind of along the lines of the thought process that I was painting earlier, like that I'm trying to venture on. So that was interesting. And then also just the idea, my friends and I had roommates, thank God, at some point that were also, becoming a bit more religious or involved in Chabad, or sometimes going with me on trips to yeshivas and stuff like that. That we would always talk about how Hashgacha Pratis, like divine providence, how wherever you are is meant to be. The things that you
mm,
see is a directive from God, or it's a way of God speaking to you. And
mm.
wherever you find yourself, you're supposed to have an influence in it for the better in some way. So those were different ideas that I always lived with, and throughout my college journey, to that kind of kept me
Right,
going.
beautiful. So let's talk a little about, I mean, we understand now your journey in terms of religion and how you got from, just a regular secular boy into to become an actual rabbi, and a Chabad rabbi who's interested in Hasidic teachings and the Rebbe's teachings. How did that affect your music, your career? Let's hear a little about. I mean, how did you get to be so big in the music industry that I understand you were number one in Spotify in Israel, and
Oh,
you signed a record deal. You're one of the few religious singers who was able to sign a record deal with a big record company. So tell us a little about that.
so I think that it empowered me a lot. I'd once a rabbi say to me that the more you know, the more freedom you have in
Mhm,
your learning. And I had stopped music completely in college. One, because I was like, I need to focus in order to do well, and I was always writing prior, so I was like, I can't be writing music all the time. But I'd stopped completely, partially because I didn't know where to go forward. Like, I was like, am I even allowed to do that? Like, all the artists
mhm,
that I liked when I was younger are like, I see them as now I see them on the other side of the spectrum. Like maybe they're doing the complete opposite of what God wants sometimes. And
right.
so it was just like, and also not having a Jewish version of education on this. You use a lot of worldly ideas of like angels and demons, or good and bad,
Mhm,
heaven and hell type stuff. And I was like, well, this feels like a lot of this stuff is on the other side.
mhm,
So
Right.
as I learned more and more, and I had different mashpiyim mentors and rabbis that would speak to me, is like, no, the Rebbe would always say, utilize your gifts for positive. Um, and also I had multiple interests. I've always wanted to start businesses and uh,
Mhm.
and I was studying accounting, and I mean, I just wanted to, but music was my passion, and I didn't know how to move forward with it. And even when I was in school, I didn't want to take too much time to create stuff because I didn't think I could. So the more I learned, the more I felt empowered to be able to give something over to other people that would be useful for them in life. Um,
Mm.
I I felt like I had a certain knowledge or maturity of my knowledge and what really makes a difference for people from these things that, obviously I can't tell, everything's makes a difference, all of it's Torah, but what could be something that I could relate to from where I was back in teenage years, and that I could give over to other people that would be inspiring for them, that would help them. So the more I'd learned, the more it actually felt like I had a mission with it, something that
Mm.
that I could intertwine my life journey, because I know how to speak about it now, with what the higher perspective of those things are, or what Hasidus would say about those topics. I haven't even done it as
Mhm.
much as I wanted to. I wanted to make, at some point when I was in yeshiva, I was taking my marim and I was putting them into songs, and I haven't really came out with songs like that, but
Mamarim are Chassidic discourses, so you're putting the Chassidic discourses into songs.
yeah, so I wanted to full on do. I mean, I have Bas Legani that is on 24/6, but I haven't really fully released it. It's not the final version and stuff with Avishai Cohen. He's a big jazz musician in Israel and France. We want to do a final version and release that. I was trying to do it on Yud Shvat and trying to
Mm.
organize, but it just made me feel more like there's more to give. There's more, I'm not just saying things. Part of my hesitancy was always like, I just don't want to be up on a stage without something to say. I don't want to be given a
Mm.
voice and just do what all those other people do where they don't say anything significant. So I felt
Mhm.
more empowered the more I learned.
Right, wow. So you did come out with, the song "You Are Not Alone." Why do you think it had such an international impact?
Well, Hashem's brachas, that would be, that's the real reason. Yeah, I mean, it was like, I'd pushed off music for so long. I'd pushed so heavily to try to like get it out as well, because I was like, I haven't been able to do this. I want the world to hear it. So I pushed it with real sincerity, like as much as I could. Thank God it picked up really well. I had already been building an audience online, so that was part of the goal, that I could do things that I wanted that were maybe not all part of the same lane, and especially music was a big one for me. So when I was able to come out with music, there's people listening already, which was one of my big hesitancies. The hesitancies was not want to just put all this effort into music and then no one hear it.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, it was just the fact that it was in the middle of COVID, people were dealing with loneliness. It speaks to
Mhm.
that. It's about how Hashem's with you in your struggles, and that's a concept in Hasidus that helps tons of people, whether therapeutically or just the everyday person. Like it's a good thing for them to live with, and I think that's really what it is that people, when they heard it, it was like it spoke to what everyone's going through.
Mm.
Some people even told me, I think it was either that song, I'm pretty sure that song, that it like saved their life. Like
Wow.
they were suicidal, and that song kind of like gave them this perspective that's higher about their purpose, and they don't have those thoughts anymore. And this lady reached out to me saying that she uses it every day in her, she has like a mix of like therapy and breath work thing that she does every day with like her group, and the first thing they do is listen to the song. And it was just,
Mm.
and then also all around, or in New Jersey, like I don't even, it was shortly after the song came out, and there was a lot of like push in that area. And I started seeing signs where we would drive saying, "You're not alone." I don't know if that was it.
Mm.
I wouldn't put it past it because it was like really, it was a bit of a viral moment for me and charted in 5 places. It became a Billboard charting single, and
Amazing.
people all over the world reached out to me telling me that that song made a difference for them. So I think that kind of reestablished the concept that if you make music that's makes a
Right.
difference in people's lives, it's you're
Right.
it's gonna keep going. Hopefully, God's blessing is behind it.
Absolutely. And then you follow that by Red and Yellow, which is a number one hit on Spotify in Israel and internationally as well. So what was that one about?
So red and yellow, there's a prophecy in the Torah that when Mashiach comes, that the sky will shine red and yellow, and that it's for me, it's like a simon, a sign of some sort that like the thing that song is especially is about the things that we don't understand that we go through and the journey that I just spoke to you about, it definitely hits home for that. Like not knowing why you're doing certain things or the efforts you're putting forward or if they mean something and that
Mm.
and the sufferings people go through, especially with what's been going on in Israel and not knowing why uh, God would ever want certain things to happen like that and knowing
Mm.
that there's in the times of Mashiach that everything will be understood, all the darkness will be light and we'll be able to understand even how the darkness was shines as light in a certain sense, and that there's a meaning behind the things that we go through, even when we don't see it, even if we don't see it throughout our whole life. Certain things.
Mhm. Right, for sure. How does it work? How were you picked up by, I mean, you signed with record labels, how does that work with leading record labels? Like what is how do they find you? How did you get to them?
Well, also Shkacha Pratis and Hashem's blessings, but ultimately, I mean, when things get a lot of attention, people start paying attention, and today's world is more diverse than ever. So some people are willing to take a risk on something that's very unique. It's or
Mhm.
you know, if something's getting a lot of attention, people start reaching out or people start looking that way. And also, when you're in the right rooms, people hear, oh, that song or this or that, and thank
Wow,
God.
incredible.
Yeah.
Right. Did you ever get any pushback for looking the way you look as a Hasidic Jew? Were record labels not interested in you because of it, or
I'm
to
not
the
sure.
contrary?
I'm not sure sometimes. I mean, yeah, I would say, yeah, I'm sure there's labels that right away wrote me off just because, like, this guy's
Mhm.
Jewish. This is like, isn't this rap music? Like, stuff like that. So I'm sure there's people, they wouldn't tell me most of the time.
Right.
Also, when anti-Semitism picked up over the past few years,
Yes.
especially in the hip hop community, with a lot of hip hop artists speaking out against Jews
Mhm.
because they didn't like some record executive, usually. So I think that made, I don't know, I was in the midst of a new record deal with one of the major top three. And I don't know, certain things didn't end up working out communication wise on moving forward, or it was kind of put on pause as like potential in the future.
Mhm.
And maybe that has to do with anti-Semitism. Maybe that has to do
Mhm.
with the fact that Kanye West just said this, or this person did this, and then you see all those comments of like, or people buying swastika shirts, God forbid, and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
I mean, the world, you can't change that. This is the reality that we live in. I mean, there's definitely people that are anti-Semitic, unfortunately, even with most of the time they have wrong reasons for it, and people that just won't say, "Oh, this is." They'll say this isn't going to work because you're so different. But usually, there's people that are smarter than that and say, "Well, different is actually good, and we're all not the same as people.
Mhm.
Most of the things that work in
Mm.
music are different." So, but so there's
Mm.
both people. There's both types of people in every industry. The typical, like, that you could imagine that isn't going to say, yeah, let's sign an Orthodox Jew. And then the people that are like,
Mm,
this is something unique. This could actually
mm,
be a novelty that helps us to further his story. And even the first place when I signed my first deal, that was the first thing that they said to me. They're like, well, what you're doing now seems to be working. So just keep doing that. Like,
mm.
being as Jewish as
Right.
you want to be. And then
Right. Wow.
also that the other deal that paused or whatever, that we weren't able to come to an agreement, they were saying
Hmm.
actually even more. They're like, we want you to make music in Yiddish. And
Ah, really?
like,
Wow.
wow, like you guys are so Chassidish over here. Like,
Interesting. Yeah. Isn't
which
that
I
interesting?
think that's brilliant, to do that. I mean, they weren't saying just Yiddish, Hebrew, and I've already working in music in Hebrew in general before, but
Hmm.
they're saying do both. Make the stuff in English, and also, there's people that want to hear you make a rap in Yiddish too. So I
Wow.
mean, if anything, the people that really, and those are usually the bigger people I've met in music, like on the like hierarchy of like music, like they like see like the vision. They're like, yeah, be as Jewish as you, because
Oh,
they know they
really?
have so much experience of like people that are so different than the rest of the world, somehow resonating more than the person that just is. So yeah, I mean, I think it just, and it's a shkacha pratis that I've seen that, it just goes to show that you don't need to change to succeed. You don't need to hide your yarmulkes and pretend you're not Jewish, or even in the Jewish world, you don't need to pretend you're FFB, you're from for birth, and you never had some crazy background or whatever, or you grew up completely different. People resonate the most with, as typical and as cliche as it may sound, with you being you, and
Mhm.
that's really what works in the world.
It's your story, and your story is a real gift. So you don't have to hide it. That's beautiful. As far as anti-Semitism, I know you were pretty vocal. Like you wore a "Never Again Means Now" at the Grammy Awards. Can you tell us a little about that? How you defend Israel?
Yeah, I mean, I just feel uh, well,
Like some people
not.
shy away from it, shy away from it all, and just aren't the vocal advocate for it. But it seems like you take a vocal stand to defend Israel.
Yeah, definitely. I think the platform God gave me is a gift to utilize for a good cause. So standing up for Israel is definitely, the Rebbe was
Hmm.
always vocal about Israel, trying to, uh, encourage different things. And I myself just feel like God wants me to speak out, wants me to be open about it. It hurts me so much to see the misinformation that people have right now. Most of the wrongs about, you know, from the people outside of Gaza saying, like what they're saying is completely like they're either uneducated or miseducated. And it's just
Hmm.
like there's people with platforms that are bigger than mine that are saying the worst things in the world with that same knowledge base. So it's like I definitely feel like I want to say more. Even there's many times that I feel like I'm not doing enough. Sometimes I do think about the platforms, because if you do too much, then they they compromise your stuff from not reaching as many people, or or
Shadow ban it.
yeah,
Hmm.
they shadow ban it. There's more people reporting it that are not Jewish, and for the past year, everyone's been experiencing, well, oh, my account's shadow banned. I posted so much Israel stuff, or they took down a post, or and it's
Hmm.
really, that's their way of fighting, is to try to mess up our system. And because I have a lot of eyeballs on my stuff, it makes it even harder, because I know there's someone out there probably that would want to take down certain things. So
Hmm.
it's a balance I'm trying to have, but there's so much more that I wish I've done and I wanted to do. As far as the Grammys thing, it's like, it's like I just knew that it's an opportunity to. It's actually a story behind it too, of like, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but it's pretty unique. I was asked to wear this shirt, and I wasn't sure. because I'm like, look, I'm clearly Jewish, I'm clearly standing,
Mm,
like, I don't think I need to
mm,
wear anything to prove that, like, everyone sees it and knows. On the other end, I was like, well, you're saying something specific. It could make a difference. It could reach a lot of eyeballs. They might, if you're going to be on the red carpet, uh, and then all the back and forth. And I spoke to
mhm,
rabbis of mine and people that I met along the way on my way to California. And I was at an event. It was kind of like a Kumsitz event, and the night before, no, it was Thursday night, so I was going to be there till Sunday was the Grammys, and this was a big question of mine. And someone comes up to me, and maybe it was Saturday night, I think Thursday night. Someone comes up to me, and they're introduced to me, and they're like, "So what brings you here?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, I was invited to the Grammys, and I feel like um, there's probably like a difference that I can make there, so I figured I'd go." And he goes like this. Actually, wait. Before I even say this, I took out my phone, and I have the OHEL app where you could write letters into the OHEL, and I wrote
to
a
the
letter.
Rebbe.
Yeah, I wrote a letter into the OHEL like, I want to wear this shirt. It might be a distraction from what the greater thing that I'm doing, or it might be important that I do it. And then right after, I get introduced to this guy, and he says, "What brings you here? Like, what's your mission here?" And he's like, and he goes like this: the hostages, or like, you should wear
Mm,
something for the hostages." And I was like,
mm,
that is insane. I literally 3 seconds ago wrote a letter on my phone in the corner,
mm.
like whether I should do it or not. And I walk up to you, and you just literally just told me to wear the shirt.
Wow.
And
Wow.
it went viral. Like, a lot of people, probably at least a few million people saw it. It got picked up a lot. Everyone was reposting it. It was one of the most viral things that I've done. And I was like, and you could see the difference, because everyone right after was like, we need to do something for the red
Mm,
pins at the Oscars. Everyone did all those things after. At the Grammys that year, no one did that really, except
mhm,
me and one other individual made a big sound, and then there's some people that wore yellow pins that probably didn't get as much publicity for it. And then all of a sudden, because these viral moments, everyone else is like saying we need to push back on the other end. So it just shows that
mm,
it was the right thing to do. It was just, I even thought about doing something this year for Kafir Bibas. I wanted to wear a shirt that said, "What about Kafir Bibas?" Because
mhm,
they didn't know what happened yet, and
mhm,
they've spoken out so much against Israel, saying that we hate babies and stuff. So I was like, what are you
mm.
doing to
Right.
your baby Bibas, and where did he go? What happened to him? Because we weren't sure at that point. But
Right. Sure. Do you ever get threatened for anti-Semitic threats to your life or
all
to
the
harm
time,
you?
yeah, yes, I get the best DMs in the world. Like, I don't even talk about it anymore. It's just like when you open up
Wow.
your DMs, and some guy just wrote all the worst things in the world to you about Israel and about you being Jewish. And
Hmm.
I, at certain points in time, I turned off comments, because I'd get the comments all the time, "Free Palestine," etc., and it would be like flood everything. And then
Hmm.
people even saying worse stuff, like literally
Mhm.
Nazi stuff that a person would only say because they're behind a camera, a computer.
Mhm.
And then someone messaged me last week saying something terrible, like one of those like Holocaust type
Mhm.
Nazi statements that they would
Mhm.
make. And I was like, I just decided to write back to this person. I was like, I forgive you. I know that you're probably going
Mhm.
through something that you wanted, you felt that this would
Mhm.
make sense to write to me. And he's like, I'm so sorry. I don't know. I'm crazy. I'm out of my mind. I don't know why I even wrote that.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
and he like completely changed, and he was like so apologetic. He's like, I'm ashamed of myself. And like, if you, so I mean,
Isn't
I
that
feel like,
interesting?
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
it gives you the opportunity also to like,
To educate instead of hiding, you just confront and educate. Wow.
yeah, yeah.
So So we didn't touch on one thing, which is your business experience. I know you are also an entrepreneur. Did a lot of tech startups. Can you tell us a little about that and how that fits into your whole worldview of changing the world and improving the world?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, 16, having that experience, I was like super driven, and I still am, to like, I need to do things that have impact. I can't live like the same way as I should at 16, 17, 18, 19, and so on. And I would try to be as productive as I can. I was literally trying to be like operating at the highest I can with everything. I was in school and I was in a very difficult program. And I was so, one of the things I wanted to do is I had a certain concept that I wanted to work on. They had put a lot of money into the startup part of our school, and
Hmm.
they were building out all these different things. And I was meeting people. One of the people that heads one of the departments is like the he sold his company to Pfizer for like billions of dollars. And like I was around all these people that are like super, they at my school somehow had all these like really big entrepreneurs, and I always wanted to start businesses. I saw my dad start something from our garage growing up, and build it. And it was just the concept of being able to start something from an idea. And I knew that that was why I was studying things in business, because I wanted to be, even whether it would be music or anything else, everything starts from an idea. Everything starts from a concept, and then you have to be able to practically implement it. And nowadays they have systems of how you do it. Back in the day, you just threw darts at a wall. I figured
Right.
by doing it now while I'm in school, it might not be the best idea because I'm in school, but
Mm.
I really don't want to um, not capitalize on the things that I could do. So I started my own business, and then at some point I had an office in the business school at my school, and we had 50 people working out of it, and
Wow.
people were, it was like all the rage and stuff. And then it built out so many opportunities for me, as I grew, and I was offered to do things for other startup companies, like being a chief marketing officer for them, or an advisor, or co-founder, or whatever. And at some point I started writing. I started writing for Forbes about startups, and Entrepreneur for about startups. And all this was great, but I was like, I really want to do music, like I thought this was
Mm.
amazing. Like this is like I because I had done things at a young age, and I was like really trying to push the rock forward on these things. It was like a lot of doors open for me because it was novel, and we got investors and different things like that. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, I mean, I segued into music kind of like with the thought that I could leave everything of that behind, because this is what I really feel I'm making the most difference. Um,
Mm.
because you have the ability to speak to people on a platform. Things are really taking off in a really amazing way.
Mm.
But it's kind of two different passions of mine, to be able to start things. And I feel like they intertwine, because music is a startup in a lot of regards. And um, all the things that I want to do to spread Hasidus in unique ways, or utilize my gifts in unique ways. The concepts I learned in starting things from scratch, and the experiences I had with startups at a pretty high level, I'm always going to be able to use it. So
Right. That's great. Wow. Um, so you've done so much in your life. I'm just wondering what's ahead. What do you think is ahead of you?
that
Any
is,
goals or dreams or aspirations?
that's myself. I even have this question of how I want to move forward. Um, I really, I mean, I really want to do things for I don't want to lose focus on like the concept of having an influence on the world around me. So music is definitely going to stay front and center because
Mhm.
I've just been able to see my ability through music to reach so many people. God's helped me to give me an opportunity to do that and a platform to do that. I don't think that's something I should deprioritize. And then startups. So, I once had a cousin of mine that's in Israel say to me when I was in Israel, if you just do business for the sake of doing business, you'll never be happy. And
Mm.
I thought about this so much. Like you could invent amazing things, you could do all those things, but what's really going to matter? What's really going to matter in the future of your life is like the influence you had on people and the amount of people you taught different concepts in Torah or different things about your life that you've learned in your journey with God. Those are going to go. Those have infinite ripples. So I think definitely the music. I want to do more. I used to write for places about spread like concepts in Hasidus in a practical lens, and one of the reasons I was hired, they said they felt that I had an ability for it, and part of that was through writing about it because I was doing that in yeshivas. I was taking things that we were learning and trying to apply it to my life. So I
Mm.
think more and more stuff around spreading Hasidus in different ways is really where I want to go, and definitely through music, but the other avenues that God willing.
That's beautiful. You were asked once if you feel lucky, and you answered you feel blessed. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I feel like all these things. It sounds like I went through a storm or storms throughout my life
Mm.
or crazy changes this way and that way, but I wouldn't be where I'm at without those things happening, and I would have continued my life the same way. And there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it leads to all I was doing, good in school. I do all the different things. It leads to a certain good things that are nothing wrong with that, but it put a thrust in me that I have like some she'ifa, some like purpose in my going, that I need to cause something in the world and I need to do it now, and I need to,
Mm.
Mashiach now. I need to do it now. I need to
Mm.
make things, the way that they could be now, with my time in life. And so I think that that's where I feel blessed is like, it's not about anything particular. It's more just like that God's like put me on a path that I wouldn't have been on otherwise. And, it's allowed me to live a meaningful life, that I've been able to do a lot of different things that have helped other people. And I'm very grateful for that.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you, Moshe Reuven, for joining us today. It's beautiful how you've applied that purpose to so many to all areas of your life, whether it be in business or through your singing or through your song, through your music. It's or through your writing. It's really beautiful to see how you found that purpose that you were seeking, and you're using it to influence so many others.
Thank you so
Thank
much. Thank you. I mean, you know, people like you are part of who inspired me. I mean, you were
you.
when I was just saying before the interview, like before, when I was in college, I'd look at Chabad.org and a lot of them were your videos. And, I remember, I think as a Sikha, I even was in like your women's classes virtually. Like
Oh wow, that's
I
cool.
remember a
That's so
Sikha
great.
about Rachel and Leah and how Leah represents the struggle. And like, these were like, all these
Right.
different things that you know, I, I've been able to learn through you and through other people, and that's what inspires me to be able to, you know, continue what I've been able to learn to bring it to others as well. And so I thank you for being a huge part of my journey and my learning and inspiring me.
Thank you. That's great to hear. Sitting behind the computer, you don't always hear it. So that's great to hear, and it's humbling to hear. So thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, you're changing the
And
world.
thank you. And thank you so much for joining us and sharing your life story and your inspiration with all our audience.
Thanks for having me. It was a huge blessing, to be a part of this.
That was an interesting interview with Moshe Reuven Sharadsky, whose music has really gone to great heights. I found it so interesting to hear what actually put him on the path to learning more about his Judaism, how that experience when he was 16 years old, just realizing that there's more to life. And if his life would be finished at that point, God forbid, what would he be thinking about himself and his accomplishments and his mission, and how he felt that there was just so much more that he wanted to give to to the world, and how that prompted him really, um, in all ways throughout. This seemed to be the thread, the unifying thread in his life, how he was always looking to impact others and to make a difference in our world through what he's done, in every aspect of what he's done, whether it be through his music or whether it be through his startups and his tech companies that he began, or any other area that of his life. He was looking to try to make an impact and reach others and show them what he really learned for himself as that young boy. And it just made me think, there are times that we have messages in our life where things change in our life, where we're given a certain situation or circumstance. And are we taking that message from that situation to actually impact our life in the way that we would like to and make the change that we really know we should be making? If you enjoy watching these videos, I hope that you are subscribed to Chabad.org/extraordinary. I hope you're watching us as well on Spotify if you're on the go, or all podcast platforms. We are also on YouTube, so you can see us there. I love to hear from you. I read every single one of your comments. I love to hear your feedback. I love to hear what is something that inspired you, or shook you, or impacted you, or that you agreed or disagreed with in any of the videos that we've done from the people that we've interviewed. So drop us a comment, tell us what you like, what you don't like, tell us what you'd like to hear. We love to hear it all. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for being part of this extraordinary community.